Mobile hunters, are you looking for a lightweight, comfortable system to hunt out of this season? If you said yes, you should be checking out the Tethered Phantom Saddle. And you might be saying, Clint, how is this thing so comfortable? Well, let me tell you how. Comfort channels, check. The comfort channels allows simple one-handed adjustment for leaning trees, gives you full control where you need it most. If you need it in your lower back, you slot into the low comfort channel. If you need it up in your lower back, or I'm sorry, under your rear end, then you slot it into the low comfort channel. Utilibridge, check. You might be saying, hey, what is a Utilibridge? This is a one-hand adjust on the fly bridge system that allows you to kind of find that hunting sweet spot no matter where you hang your tether. Lineman loops, check. You might be saying lineman loops, whatever, overrated, right? Wrong. Lineman loops, a little bit more rigid to where you can easily find them in the dark. I don't know how many times I spent time trying to get my carabiner to clip into my lineman's loop and just wishing it was just a little bit more sturdy. The Phantom Saddle has you covered there as well. Made in America, 100%. And if that wasn't enough, they just recently came out with the Predator XL platform. This platform is 40% bigger and has improved traction over the current Predator. I hunt out of the current Predator, a little smaller profile. But if you're one of those fellows that's got some big feet, some big boots, you might want to check out the Predator XL. So if you want to learn more about Tethered and all their products, head to tetherednation.com. The first thing I do in the morning before a hunt, before a scout, or just before getting ready for work is have my morning coffee, and I'm sure most of you out there listening are the same. Make sure you're filling your mug with Skull Brew Coffee, as it is the only coffee company that is both 2% for conservation certified and donates 10% of its profits to conservation organizations to help secure the future of our wild places. So head to skullbrewcoffee.com and choose between 3 killer roasts of coffee and know that you are supporting conservation with every sip. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Skull Brew Coffee Company. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 189. Today, John and I talk about our plans, goals, and aspirations for the upcoming season, so stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are feeling fine. It is now August, which means that we are fast approaching the season. And if you are behind, I guess this is the time where it's really time to kind of crank and get ready to roll, because be a couple turnarounds here, and the season will be upon us. I have about, I don't know exactly how many days it is, but about a month and a half, because I think my season comes in. Don't quote me on this because I haven't looked specifically in a few weeks, but I think it's like the 19th of September, maybe mid of September. It comes in. Actually, it might be a week later than that, because I think the season comes in like the 5th or something like this year in Pennsylvania, that first Saturday of October, if I'm not mistaken. I might be misremembering this, but anyway, I come in just a couple weeks early here in PA in a special regulations unit. So my season is fast approaching, which means, it's time to kind of start putting the puzzle pieces together, so to speak. John and I today, what we're going to talk about is really our goals, dreams, aspirations for the season. We usually do one of these every year around this time. It's a nice kind of kickoff to the season before people's schedules kind of get crazy and it's hard to get folks on the podcast and so forth. And John has a lot going on this year. We'll talk about all the hunts he has going on. He's got a lot of travel happening, and his is really kind of kicking off in August, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly. So wanted to make sure that we got this one in. The one update that I have that we didn't get to talk about on the podcast, because it actually just happened yesterday, was I did go out and pull a couple additional camera cards. I have them so spread out all over the place, all over a bunch of different pieces of public, that it's really hard for me to kind of make a day out of it and get it all done in one day. So it's having to happen over the course of a few weeks. And some of them I probably won't touch for a little while, because I've had them, maybe in that spot, last year. But anything that's new this year, I'm having to check just to make sure I'm getting deer on camera. And if you've listened to any of the previous podcasts where I've talked about, the previous camera pulls, I've not had anything, where it made me kind of jump up and down and say, wow, there was one pull that I had where I thought that there's one, maybe two decent bucks, but it was early. It was like June 15th, June 16th, something like that. And so you could tell two of them had potential, but you weren't quite sure, that mid-June to mid-July, or end of July kind of jump is really kind of the telltale. The month of August, they're not going to put on a ton. They make their hay really, those 30 days in the middle of June to mid-July, or end of July rather. August is really kind of, they might grow just a little bit more. It might put on an inch or two, but you're not going to see a huge jump. Usually by the end of July, you're pretty close to having what you're going to have. At that point. So there were two deer earlier, in an earlier card pool that had potential. And then this most recent card pool, I'll say that I've got a lot of bucks on camera that are borderline. I don't have any at this point that I would say are clear kind of standouts. There's a handful, I would say probably after yesterday's pool, there's probably 4 total that have potential, or might become a candidate to eat some carbon as we get into the season. But we'll have to just kind of wait and see. But the one cool thing about yesterday's card pool was it was a brand new piece. There was a bed that I'd found. I talked about it previously. I think even in the winter I talked about it whenever I found the bed. And I thought it could be a really, really good spot because I thought access would be pretty hard in this spot. And so I almost didn't hang a camera here because I didn't want to get too close to the bed. But then I was like, you know what? I really need to learn whether or not they're using it, how often they're using it. Now, I know we have to take all this with a grain of salt because there's going to be a shift that's going to occur when they start to shed, or when they start to peel their velvet. And then we'll kind of see who's still, sticking around and so forth. But, the good news is this camera that I placed is that I have a ton of buck activity on it. One camera was placed on a community scrape, tons of deer activity, couple bucks on that one. But overall, a lot of doe activity around that kind of community scrape licking branch area, which is killer. I was kind of supposing that one was going to be more of a play as you get into, the pre-rut time frame, or whenever they start scraping and stuff like that. So that I think is going to hold true. And then the other camera that I had was closer to that bed, and was right underneath, or I shouldn't say right underneath. It was very close to a white oak tree that had previously dropped acorns, because I could see all the old acorns on the ground whenever I was scouting. And then after that, I found that bed. And so then I thought, I was like, well, this is a great setup for sometime in October, even outside of there being scrapes and, pre-rut activity, where there's a bed there, there's food here. It's super thick, security cover. I just felt like, man, this is a great place for a buck to spend some time before, before the party really gets started. And I wanted to hang a camera there. So I did. And then yesterday I went in, and I don't know, there was probably 5, maybe 6 different bucks, and they weren't bachelor groups. They were all kind of separate. They weren't traveling together. And so there was like 5, 6 different bucks that were kind of using this general area. One of them, which was, a borderline shooter. Again, it's, he's probably the best deer I have on camera at this point. So he might be the lucky winner by default. So, I was pretty stoked to see that, just the fact that it was getting as much activity as it was. There wasn't a scrape there or anything. I was just catching natural buck movement. And at times, I'm sure they're bedding in other places. Like I found the one bed, and I had assumed that was going to be a general bedding area that bucks would probably use at some point. I'm sure there are some doe families somewhere in that cut as well. But there just weren't a ton of does on this particular camera. Like I was definitely getting, I would say for every picture of a doe I got on that camera, I probably got 5 pictures of a buck, and it was the same 5 or 6 bucks, and some of them were dinks. They were small. There was the one that was, the really nice, the really nice deer that was borderline. You'll just have to see, as things play out where he kind of lands. And then also I'd like to get just a little cleaner picture of him, because I think I might have him on another camera where I have a better picture of him, but yet it's earlier in the season. And that one kind of shows me, and it's like his body's telling me it's like he might be 3, he might be 2. It's hard to tell. I haven't got a really good look at him yet. So he's one that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. And then there's another one in there that looks like he had potential, but probably isn't a guy that's going to make the list this year. So that's what I had going on yesterday. It was a good card pool. It's probably the better one that I've had to this point, as far as getting some velvet deer on. Getting some velvet bucks on camera. And so now I'm slowly starting to make my game plan for how I might hunt that area in and around that bed, because it seems like, I'd probably take my first crack at some point, if I got the right wind and maybe a cold front comes through, I'd maybe go hunt that bed. It's going to be really tricky to hunt it The access just isn't great. It's on the edge of private, so really the only way you can come in from him to that bed is from the top. But where it's positioned, you actually have to come in from the top into like I guess it's the west. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's the east. And you have to kind of follow the edge of this cut around, which I don't want to do because that's how the deer are kind of moving around this area. It's like some of the deer I'm catching on one camera, I'm catching on the other, and it's kind of, this little transition area on the edge of this cut that they're following. And so I want to stay away from that because there's a lot of really great movement around that. There's really only a small sliver of a space where I could possibly access it by hugging the edge of private. But this piece is kind of butted up against some private. So it's, a little bit difficult to get into, as of course I don't want to be jumping over onto private. I can't do that. So I got to figure out a way to get in there. So I have to do some more map studying. So that's the plan for now. We'll wait for fall and see what shakes loose. But before we jump into today's podcast, I just want to make mention, before we get this thing kicked off, that as I mentioned previously, my buddies over at Exodus are kicking off their annual Velvet Fest. And if you don't know what their Velvet Fest campaign is, you are missing out. It is the official start to deer season, and Exodus helps us get rolling into the summer scouting. I know that when Velvet Fest hits, for me personally, as I've mentioned in the past, it's not only should you be getting your cameras out, but it's time to do a little bit of inventory checking to see what you got kind of hanging around on those cams. This campaign is going to run from July 31st to August 21st. They'll have some awesome prizes for people who use the hashtag VelvetFest on their social channels to share all their whitetail adventures. Also, if you're in the market for a trail camera, Velvet Fest is the perfect opportunity to get ready for the season if you might need a replacement or two. Every single camera order comes with a random prize card that you'll have to scratch off to reveal a prize. I've been told that it includes some pretty killer deals, so you want to make sure to take full advantage of this. To sweeten the pot yet even more, each week they will have a special offer along with a grand prize. Just as a teaser, here's the grand prize for each week of Velvet Fest. Week 1, it is a 2021 October archery hunt with Steve Shirk Guide Services. And if you don't know Steve, you should check him out. He's been on Trail Cam Radio podcast, gets on monsters on the regular. Week 2 is a shoulder mount from Uran Taxidermy. If you've not checked out this dude's taxidermy, I believe he also did a podcast with on Trail Cam Radio, and I think there's actually even a video with him as well. Week 3 is a September archery hunt for this season with Wicked Obsession in Kentucky and a shoulder mount from the national award-winning studio Full Draw Taxidermy. So those are 3 killer prizes that you won't want to miss out on the opportunity to get in the running for. For any order on the website during the designated week, you'll be automatically entered into purchase with any purchase on the website for the grand prize. There's a lot to this campaign, so you'll want to head over to their website, which is exodusoutdoorgear.com, and make sure you're on their newsletter because there's going to be a lot of opportunities to win some cool stuff. So if you're not familiar, which I'm not sure how you couldn't be at this point with Exodus, over the last 5 years, Exodus has consistently shown they build quality trail cameras that flat out work, and of course, they have the best trail camera warranty, period. Every single camera is backed by a 5-year warranty and comes with a theft and damage coverage. Yep. You heard it right. 5 years, literally half a decade, and you'll be covered by the Exodus 5-year warranty. But more than likely, you won't need it because their cameras are just built to last. So be sure to take part in this year's Velvet Fest celebration, and be sure to tag me in your posts because I want to see what you guys are up to. And with that, we'll go ahead and get rolling into the show with Mr. Johnny by God, Utah. And as always, thank you all for listening. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, and you will recognize the sultry, dulcet tones of my brother from another mother, Johnny, bucked up by God, Utah. What's going on, man?
What's happening, brother? Dude, I'm telling you, every intro, it gets better.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's almost like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just saying, your lead up for me, I'm like, man.
No, I was literally saying I'm actually getting better at this. Like it only took 4 years.
Start to figure it out, by God.
That's right, man. It's funny because I was actually thinking before we got on, because I do this, like before you and I get on, I think about like, okay, what nickname am I going to give him for this intro? Because it's become a thing now. It's like every time we do this, I have one for you. And I was like, I should go back through and just try to find like all the different nicknames I've given him along the way and see how many it actually is. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know how many episodes we've done together. It's got to probably be at least like 50 nicknames I've probably given you.
Yeah.
You know,
that's funny.
Over the course of 2 years. So it's actually a thing. So it's like you're permeating my thoughts prior to the podcast. Like I don't think about what questions we're going to talk about or what we're going to discuss. Like that's like, whatever. But I'm always like, all right, what's the intro going to be this time? It's got to be good.
Yeah. The important stuff.
Right. It's all about the intro, man. It's like first impressions, dude. You just got to kill it at the start and then we can suck the rest of the hour and a half. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But how you been, man? You been good, dude?
Yeah, it's been good. It's a little bit of I guess you can call it a little bit of a downtime off season or whatever. So just been getting a lot of stuff done, trying to even just things around the house, keep mama happy, get the honeydew list done.
Yeah.
We've got landscaping now. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Yeah.
Living like the other side, man. Nice.
That's right.
I had the same thing. That's right, dude. I had this past week. I think it was all this past week, actually. Actually, no, it was all last week, and the weeks are all running together. We had a brand new fence put in because mine was like an old fence from the old fellow that we bought the house from, and I was trying to get it to hang on for one more year because it was just in bad shape. Like the gate had fallen apart, and I'd like put together like a janky gate to keep my dog in, and I was trying to get one more year after it. And this winter, I realized it probably wasn't going to happen because the weight of like a 2-inch snowfall like collapsed like part of it. Or whatever.
That's all she's got.
Yeah, that was it. And I was like, all right, looks like that's going to happen this year. So it looks nice. I just wasn't wanting to do it quite yet this year. And then we had like new ceiling fans installed in our house because our house is older, right? And it was built in like the 60s, I think, or like 63 or something like that. And so there's no ceiling fans in the entire place. And so we're used, especially for as long as we lived in Orlando, it's like we're used to having ceiling fans because every house down there has them. And we have some square footage too. And it was just like the AC needed some help with circulating the air and stuff like that. So the honey-do list is moving along, but I can't say I did any of it because she was like, you going to do any of this? And I was like, nah, we're going to hire someone to do that. Like, it was like, I was like, if you want it done within like the next 3 months, we should probably just get someone to do it. I was like, because between work, checking trail cameras, getting ready for deer season, I was like, that I need lower hanging fruit. Like you need to have lower expectations of me. Is the reality of it.
That's too funny. Yeah, she was, man. My wife, she was on my back and she's like, we got to get this done. And I'm like, we'll get it. And she goes, if it's not done by mid-August, it ain't happening until next year. I'm like, yeah, good point. So
yeah, exactly. Because your year kind of cranks up at mid-August, and we're going to get into all that. So I think for the folks out there listening, I think what the plan is for today, John, if you're cool about it, I think we're going to do our annual kind of hunt prep. What we got going on, what our plans are for this year. Because now we've mentioned them in the past, like throughout the year, but at this point, like they should be, we're solidified in what we're going to be doing. And then talk about the goals for each state or each hunt that we're on, what we hope to accomplish, what are maybe some dream scenarios. And then always the fun kind of like, what's the obstacle, like what's the unanticipated obstacle that you're almost anticipating? I figure we'll talk about that too, to see if there's any barriers or anything we can kind of come up with that might throw a wrench in our plans. So
for sure,
I guess first to start, man, we'll start with what you have left. Like, where are you at in your preparation? Like, you feeling good about where you're at? Like, is there still things that you have to do, or you cram into the last minute? Like, what's your setup?
Yeah, I mean, because of the way my travel is going to start off earlier this year, I'm not going to be in Iowa, during August and or all of August and September to kind of get ready for that October 1 opener. So I've actually been ahead of schedule and trying to get as much done as I can. So when I do come back here to start the opener, the majority of my stuff is done. The one thing that I will be lacking is finding time to get some cameras set up on some scrapes, because I do like to get that immediate, really fresh inventory. But I've got my food plot looking really good right now. I know
you're all jazzed about that, man. Like, I think almost every time we've talked, not on the podcast, like you've mentioned how good it's looking.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. It's kind of like, what do they say? Like, the plumber always is the guy with the leaky toilet.
Yeah.
The guy with the horticulture degree has the worst food plots always. But this year I went back to clover from Don and those guys at Real World, and man, just they killed it. It's awesome. It turned out really, really good. Yeah, obviously, it's a high quality seed, but also that property, just so many years and years and years of planting and just getting organic matter into that soil,
Right.
really improved my soil quality as well. So I think the culmination of that and having rain hit the right, at the right times when I planted and that kind of stuff. So I can't take all the credit. It was a lot of Mother Nature and
Right. Right.
and other people's good seed blends that helped me.
Right. Yeah, for sure, man. It's like there's nothing more critical than timely rain whenever you're doing food plots. I mean, that will just make or break you no matter what it is. I mean, the one thing I always liked about clover whenever I was doing plots at the family piece, was that it it was really I'm trying to figure out how to say it was really hardy, I guess is one way to put it. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty resilient. Like it would, it would take a lot to like for it to completely fail. You could maybe have a scenario where it maybe doesn't come in as good as you would like, but
Yeah.
anytime I've done a clover plot, it's always been pretty good. You know what I mean? Like I've never
Yeah.
had one that was just like garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I also was really when I moved to Iowa, I thought, man, soybeans, corn. So I had this thing in my head like I was going to compete with all of the ag bean fields.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot
Yeah,
out there.
I lost miserably.
Right.
So um and you and I we've talked about this before where sometimes the low hanging fruit is
Hmm.
actually the thing you need to do.
Right.
And I'm like, just go with clover. It's easier to grow. I've
Yep.
got the equipment that I need to do it. And it's not something that every farm in Iowa has.
Right.
So that's kind of that's kind of why I went with clover.
Right. And the other thing you and I were talking about, and we'll get into like specific deer and trail camera inventory here in a minute, but the other thing you and I were talking about the other day was just the fact that what you mentioned, where you have clover, not every farm in Iowa has it. And there's this
Mhm.
particular deer that always kind of moves off of like your property that
Yeah,
you've been hunting, right?
yeah,
And the cool thing is like beans around that October time frame or whatever, like those start to turn, right? And they start to become
yep,
undesirable and stuff like that. And maybe even earlier, I'm not exactly sure. I think they turn just
yep,
a little earlier here,
yep,
um, but that clover is still going to be a green food source as long as you don't get like a crazy frost. Like you should be pretty good. I mean, my clover around here has lasted to like almost up to like November in some seasons where we had like abnormally warm Octobers,
yeah,
where we
yeah,
might have had a
yep.
light frost and it killed some of it, but like some of it survived or whatever. So you
Hmm.
should have a good green food source like at least through the early part of the season, if not even into the as they lead up into pre-rut.
Exactly. And that's because of the way my schedule is going to play out this year. I I normally would not hunt really hard those first 2 weeks of October. And then once we get to mid-October, and then I start watching the weather.
Hmm.
And I'm just kind of waiting for those cold fronts to come in, at the end of October. But like I said, with the schedule this year, I actually need to try to and want to try to capitalize in those first couple of weeks of the year.
Right.
So that's another reason where the clover, like you pointed out, the clover is going to play into this year's plan a little bit. And there's a buck that I really want to kill this year that seems to vanish, right around the end of September. So I'm hoping maybe I can keep him a little bit longer and maybe get an arrow in him before he gets wild and starts,
Spreading his
cruising
wings a little
around.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Cool, man. Well, I mean, I think my prep, I've got all my cameras out. Like I was actually ahead of the game with that stuff this year. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm just getting ready to do like my first camera pools. I just took an out of state trip and hung some additional cameras, but for the PA ones,
Yeah,
I,
you hooked up with Chad and those guys from Exodus.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Hooked up with Sylvester and we did a little out of stater and put out some cameras and have some
Yep.
really high hopes for that spot. And then around PA, I've had a couple that have been soaking just for about a month, and I pulled them just about a week ago. Two
Mhm.
decent, we'll get into inventory in a second, but two decent bucks on that one. And then I've got probably seven more all out on public that I need to go check probably this coming weekend. I'm probably going to get out and check those, or
Cool.
at least half of them, because a bunch of these places are brand new, and so I need to go. I usually don't like to check them that often, or even if I know it's in a good spot, it's like there's one in an area that I've hunted a couple different times where it's like I know where I need to put the camera, and if there are any deer in there worth killing, I'll have him on camera. And so
Yeah.
I don't even
Yep.
need to walk in until I'm going to try to go hunt it and have the right wind, and I'll check the camera when I get there. but a bunch of these spots are brand new to where I don't even know if I'm on the right freaking, like, in the right area. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
is this the right trail? Are they using this travel corridor? Or are they not? Because there's no food sources around. So I've really been kind of playing scrapes early. Like, I actually have one spot that where they were still hitting the licking branch whenever I went to hang that camera in May. And then on that same camera, I had them hit the licking branch in freaking June and July. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like, it's just an area that they're continuing to communicate. And so I even still like made mock scrapes and stuff like that this time of year just to try to get them to communicate, get them to stop, and knowing that it's not going to be fully useful for, quite a while yet. But in lieu of not having, a food source or something like that to where I can get inventory, I was trying to, make a scenario, for which I could, grab some inventory, even if it's just a fleeting picture once I know there's a good deer in the area, and then maybe figure out where he transitions. So, and then
for sure.
Then the big thing for me is just finishing up the trailer, finishing up the travel trailer, to get that all seaworthy and ready to go, which it's almost there. I think I just got I got the solar to put in and a window to put in, and like all the big stuff will be done except for laying like the floor. But like the installation stuff at that point will be done. And so I'm hoping that I'm done by the end of July is kind of the goal.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and that's all I really have left to do, man. So I'm pretty good. And it seems like for all the travel and stuff you got going on, like you're in a pretty good spot too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really was, as hard as it was to keep working when I would come home, I really tried to stay on top of it. Just, again, not knowing what the year was going to do and how things were going to unfold. But I also knew that I had a pretty busy schedule, for the fall. So in between my travel trips, I would try to come home and get another camera out or mess with my food plots or get some mineral out or something. And I went through and checked all of my permanent stands, and retrimmed those out a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're solid. Hung a new set a couple weeks ago, which I'll have to show you on a map. I finally got a stand where I've needed to have a stand for the last 3 years.
Is it down in that jungle bush that's like in that one? Is that the spot?
No. So I'm up the hill from that spot. Okay. But it's where they will ultimately go.
Right.
Just entirely too thick down in there. But this is a spot where I've watched bucks come out during the rut and push does along this tree line, and they do it every year. And I went over there, mutual friend, my buddy Billy and we went down there and we kept looking at all these different trees, and we're like, that literally is the only tree. Like,
right.
And actually, it could work. You know what I mean? So we got in there and got to trimming, and it was like, oh, this is money. I mean, it's going to be a 35-yard shot. It will be the minimum.
Right.
So every shot's going to be like 35 to probably 50.
Right.
For this spot, but it's killer. I'm excited about it. After we hung it, I got up in the tree and I'm like, I actually might not hunt another stand on this farm.
Right.
Like, this might be it.
Right. Yeah. There's a spot like that in the one out of state piece that it's actually a ground setup that I'm just like super stoked on. It's over a scrape that gets used. Sylvester has hunted it in the past, probably I want to say 3 years ago, that general area. And he was maybe 50 yards down from this, and he heard just two bucks just like getting after it, like whooping each other's ass. And he was like, what is that sound? And then when he was coming out, like he came out a little early, and he was just like, dude, there was like, like a wrestling mat size, like the circle in a wrestling mat size, just like looked like two like full grown men just spent 30 minutes beating the shit out of each other in a circle. And it's just like the ground was all tore up and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good spot. And then we actually checked out this bench system that was below it and ended up finding a buck bed. And I'm assuming it's a rut bed because it is literally 60 yards downwind. If he had a south wind, he'd be able to scent check that and everything from the valley, or everything from the draw below him, and be able to kind of play both sides in the morning. So I'm like, that to me on the right wind, like a buck will be bedded there, and it just depends on if it's the right deer or whatever the case is. So I'm looking forward to that setup because I would, in this area that we, we're spending some time, like there's some giant deer in this area. And I was like, man, I would love to be on the ground at like 12 yards with like 170-inch deer, like I'd maybe poop myself. It's like,
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'll take something smaller. Like, I don't care. Like on the ground, I'm like, whatever. Like my standards go down real quick on the ground. They look bigger at that point when you're that close. But so any new gear that you're, implementing this year, dude? Cause I know, you and I we're always kind of tweaking stuff and, trying to up our game. Is there something that's going to help me out a little bit more, or do I need to swap something out? So what's your game there? Is there anything new you're adding to the arsenal?
I'm trying to think what all I've added this year. Let's see. I've added some stuff on the food side.
Right.
Heather's Choice and Peak, Refuel and actually Fat Bombs.
Dude, Fat Bombs are the jam.
Yeah. So I'll be running all of that stuff. That's going to be, again, in past seasons, I mean, there wasn't as many traveled hunts like there is this year. And
right.
So this year, that was something I had never really had to worry about too much. But
right.
So anyways, got some new food stuff to take out. And hell, we'll go ahead and make this the podcast where I make this announcement. Going to be running all Kufaru packs this year.
Nice. That's sweet.
Making a change, making a switch over from Mystery Ranch to Kufaru. And, I've always said people first, product second, but they both got to be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And so there you have it.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Time to make some changes.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, Kufaru makes killer gear, man. I mean, as far as like durability and just like usability, functionality, like it's just, the stuff will last for, I mean, you could whatever packs you're using this year, you would be able to use 20 years from now, just
exactly.
in terms of their quality. They do a really good job of, testing their stuff and using high quality gear and making sure that it's going to last. And I know that that's what you always kind of look for. As you mentioned, people first, product second, but they both better be really good. But I know that you like to use quality gear, right? It's like, that's the one thing that if you're serious about whether you're travel hunting or not, especially if you're travel hunting, though, it's like your gear cannot fail you, because you are however far from home, you don't have an opportunity to fix X, Y, and Z or go get a new or whatever the case is. It's like, your shit better work, you know what I mean? Or it better be pliable enough to where it's like you can manage it and get it to do what it needs to do, even when it's broken.
Exactly. Well, and like, you get out there on those hunts and, you're tired. The days are long, your body's fatigued, depending on how the hunt's going. I mean, it might not be going as according to plan. And, yes, it goes without saying, we all love to be outdoors and enjoy the experience. But man, some of those hunts can grind, and if you're having gear problems, that just adds to it.
Mm-hmm.
So nonetheless, whenever your gear is performing as it should and it's doing what it's supposed to do, it makes you feel better. And, when I'm out on those hunts too, I mean, the brands that I work with that help support what I do, I want to perform well for them as well.
Yeah.
So I want to back up that investment that they made in me. So it's a whole lot easier to push yourself harder when you really want to do well for those brands, as well. So, that's one change that I've got this year. But everything else, I mean, the staple brands, Diamondback and Grizzly, Sitka, Prime, Ozonics, Luminoc, Crispy,
the old faithful standbys.
Yeah, exactly. Exodus. So, so that's pretty cool that, we're running the same trail camera and stuff now. And
I know it was always iffy before in the past when we would start talking about trail camera pictures, because it was like you worked with another brand and it was like, and it's, I never cared. It wasn't, and Chad and those guys didn't either, because it was just, we've all been friends for forever, but it was always kind of weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for sure.
I never wanted to mention the name of the past company, and I'm like, out of respect for you and your platform and stuff. But, so that definitely makes it a whole lot nicer that, we can openly talk about Exodus trail cameras.
Exactly.
But and also there's a couple of other brands that we both work with, Maven, as well. So
I just got some. That was one of the new pieces of gear that I added. It was was able to have a really cool conversation with some of those folks. And we had those guys on, a couple months ago.
Yeah. Mike was on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a picture of him actually on Instagram. He's a rock climbing fool, man. You see
He
that?
is.
Dude.
Yeah.
I was like, that's bananas, man. So I
he's like Spider-Man.
He is, dude. I couldn't do it, man. I like adventure and I like adrenaline and all, but in doses in which I think I'll survive, that I don't think that I'd make it. So
yeah.
But I picked up some of their glass. Got a set of, I think B1 10 to 42s is what I'm rocking for those. Really looking forward to getting those out in the glassing arena of trying to catch some velvet. There's one spot specifically that I can kayak into that I want to glass from, and so that's the spot that I'm really kind of looking forward to. And I know they got a spotter coming out too, which is really cool. Whether you're glassing or whether you're going out west or whatever the case is. So that's the one thing that I added new. A couple updates with just the general gear, just because I know we had Chris on from Sitka, and we talked a bunch about packs, and so I really dig the tool belt pack, and that's probably what I'm going to be running as my primary pack this year, just because it fits that low profile saddle kind of setup that I like. And I might switch to one of the bigger ones as we get into maybe later season and I need to take some layers or whatever the case is, but I think to start, that's what I'm going to use. But for me, it's, the same things that I've been using, just maybe some newer versions. Tethered came out with a new Phantom saddle, using that, of course. Standby with broadheads. They worked well for me last year. When I shot the day 6 broadheads and I killed my Iowa buck with that broadhead. So it's got a little magic in it because it was some fourth quarter magic with that. So, and Brian's just a good dude, so I'm always happy to use his products and support him. But otherwise, man, it's let me ask you this, man. There's been a ton of different sticks come out, right? And you know what I mean? It's and I keep looking at them, and the gear nerd of me is looking at it going, man, I would really like to get a new set of sticks, regardless of whose sticks they are, because there's been, a handful of companies recently that have put out, short sticks and different combinations. And every time I look at them, I always look at them and I'm like, they're not going to be any better than the modified sticks that I made last year that I hunted all year with. And I like the way that they nest together and they fit what I need them to do. And I'm like, I just can't bring myself to buy a new set because I don't know that they're going to do anything earth shattering for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are your feeling on all the new sticks? Are you intrigued by any of them, or are you kind of in the same boat as me where it's I'm good?
I like innovation. As you and I, I'm sure I know we both do. But if you're going to innovate, let's really innovate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it's a climbing stick. There's not a lot you can do with it. So what ends up happening in today's digital world, capitalist world,
right,
is you can either reinvent, the wheel, or you can come up with a mousetrap, or you can come up with a better mousetrap. But then you're forced to win the market. Right. That's kind of what it comes down to. So I have seen some small advancements, in the sticks, and a lot, ideally the 2-stick or the shorter stubbies or whatever you want to call them. And that's cool. For my style, I do like climbing sticks just because I prefer them. I like what the purpose that they serve, and I don't want to have a big ladder and that kind of thing. But as far as run and gun stuff, I've got some XOP stuff and I've got some custom gear stuff. I'm not a saddle guy. I know that you're a saddle guy. And I've said this before on your platform and on several others. I'm going to shoot my bow in my free time, or I'm going to take more photos instead of spending time doing mods to shave an ounce or 2 ounces here.
Right.
I'll just go do more curls. Right. I'll just go bench press more.
Exactly. I'm the same. I mean, I made those modifications because I wanted something a little bit smaller for me. But once I did that, it was there's no other stick kind of adaptation that I need at this point. I made something to fit what I needed it to be. And then from there, it's unless someone creates something that's just completely out of this world, I think it'd be a really hard sell to get me to change what I'm using, because it works. It doesn't fail. There's nothing on it that's going to break. It's just, You know what I mean? And that's probably more my thing is like whenever I'm using gear, even when I was building the trailer, you know, like I didn't run wiring and stuff like that. Like I'm using like stick up lights and, you know, cause what I'm trying to reduce is like the amount of stuff that can break. Cause I want to hunt, not fix stuff when I'm on these trips, you know? And so,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so, cause you know, people would ask me like, why didn't you run wiring and like run power and like to your solar generator and stuff like that? I was like, because I don't feel like working on it when I come home from hunting. If I have a short somewhere or whatever, you know, I was like, I want to just plug it in and know it's going to work because I want to go to bed because I'm back up early tomorrow morning to grind again, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of where I'm at. It's like the more I get my stuff dialed in and I get comfortable with what I have, the less and less. And it's even one of those things too, where it's like, you know, when I work with, you know, like I work with Tethered, right? Great example. And I love their saddles. But whenever they came out with the Phantom, they're like, you know, they were sending me, you know, a Phantom to try and stuff like that. You know, truth be told, it's like I was apprehensive about it because I got my Mantis saddle dialed in and I loved it. And I had it set up to where it's like when I got into a tree, I was comfortable. Right. And so I was like, man, this new saddle, I'm gonna have to get used to it. Like, is it going to work for me? Am I going to like it? You know what I mean? Cause it's like, you're always like, cause you like the guys, like you were saying, it's people first, product second. And I love those dudes. And so it's like, when you make something, it's like, you don't want to be like, dude, it's great that you made a new thing, but it's like, I'm going to use the old one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just fortunate that it's baller. So it's like, I didn't have a problem transitioning, but I'm always apprehensive when new gear comes out and I'm being asked to make a switch or whatever. It's always kind of a little bit of a tense moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know, same thing with backpacks.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that the only thing I'm not looking forward to this year is, you know, I blindfolded, I could go in a tree and I know where everything is in, what pocket it's in. And I know how I pack my gear and all that kind of stuff. So this year there's going to be a little bit of a education time where I'll have to spend some time in the basement and pack gear, unpack gear, see how I like for it to ride, what's going to not make noise and what's going to be accessible when I need it and that kind of stuff. So a little bit of a learning curve there, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and you have, I mean, because you do you do a lot of self filming. I shouldn't say some, you do a lot of self filming, right? It's like, you know, you sometimes have a camera guy with you, but you do a fair amount of self filming to where it's like you're carrying additional gear. So a pack for you is that much more important because it's not just taking the stuff you need for the hunt. It's taking stuff that you need for your job as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It's like,
and then, you know, sometimes I'll even try to have it set up where I've got two packs. So I have one pack for what I'm going to need whenever I have a camera guy. And then I try to have a pack set up to where it's everything that I need and can hold what I need when I'm self-filming.
Right.
Now, someday if I'm financially able, I'd love to have camera gear separate and have two of everything. And, you know, so I can just grab and go. But yeah, it's probably not going to happen anytime.
Right. Well, you'll get there, man. Like it's baby steps.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So let's move to the next topic, man. So let's talk a little trail camera inventory. Like I have some that I can talk about because I've not pulled a ton of cameras. I have some that I can talk about from some out of state stuff that we pulled in like February. So we know what's around, you know, type of thing. But where are you at with your inventory? How are things looking? You got some prospects?
Yeah, so there was an antler that I picked up in shed season
this is crazy.
On my lease. Yeah. And there was this tiny little triangle, which is like right there where we parked the truck and we were hanging out that one day and you were eating your like granola and dates or whatever it was you had pre-packed that morning. And so the woods just off to our left. It's just a tiny little triangle. And I pulled in there one day and I didn't have a lot of time to shed hunt, but I knew that I had enough time to cover that little 4-acre section. So I'm like, I've never found a shed in there before. I'm not even going to take my backpack. So all I had is my cell phone in my pocket.
Right.
And I go walking through the timber and lo and behold, there's a shed and it's a good shed. So I filmed it with my iPhone, you know, and that's with the footage we ended up using in my shed cat episode. But I pick up the shed and it's just giant base. But it had a lot of bones still attached to it. And I thought, man, look, like he ripped this one out. You know what I mean? Right. So you always wonder, like, how's the deer going to grow the next year? Is that going to affect anything? Mm-hmm. But anyways, Threw the shed on the mantle and didn't really think a whole lot about it. Got some cameras running this year, and I was like, oh, sweet. Like, there's this buck again that I had last year in velvet. And then I'm like, can't get too excited because he vanished last year, after he went
Right.
hardhorn. I never saw him again. And then I've gotten some more pictures of him. So he's still coming to the food plot and still hitting the mineral site and all that kind of cool stuff. And I was sitting in my office the other day, and I keep my sheds in my office, and I was telling you this story the other night. I kind of zoned out for a little bit, and I look over and I'm looking at this shed, and I'm like, man, look at the base on that shed. I'm like, man, he's got double brows too. And then all of a sudden it was like, ding, a light bulb. I'm like, that's the freaking buck I'm watching on the same farm. I don't know why I never put two and two together.
Right.
But so anyway, so yeah, it's cool to see that he's back around. He should be 5 this year.
He was a hammer last year too, man.
Yeah, he's a good solid deer. Last year I was mad that he vanished on me, and who knows? Like we talked about, maybe with him being a little bit older, maybe that home range will shrink down a little bit, and maybe he'll stay on my piece. Maybe the clover might keep him around a little longer this year. So I'm hoping he should be the big dog. I mean, there's a buck I call Dagger that to my knowledge did not get killed last year. I did see him late season from afar, so I feel fairly confident that he made it through. And then of course there's this buck that I'm now calling Tyson. Right. So
what do you think he's going to go this year? I guess let me ask this. What do you think he was last year?
So last year, looking at him, I think he was 145, but he had double brows. Right. So very well could have scored 155 last year. 155 on a 45 frame. This year, from the trail camera pictures, so comparing this year's trail cams to last year's trail cams at the same time of the year, it's unbelievable.
Really?
What he's done as far as growth. Yeah. So he's so further ahead this year than where he was last year.
Is he just putting on inches, or is he putting on more frame?
No. Well, it does look like he did grow a little wider. Not a lot, but where he noticeably has packed on the size is the mass.
Really? Man.
I mean, just extreme noticeable mass. So
I mean, he had like Louisville Slugger baseball bats at his bases, like already.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So so that's the target. Again, Dagger, I never get pictures of Dagger until November anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. But then I have him all November. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not too worried that I haven't gotten pictures of him yet. I don't think he lives on me. I think he just comes and parties with my does.
Right. Yes. Hey, you'll take it, right? It's like,
I'll take volunteer bucks all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Is there any other prospects? You running cameras anywhere else out in the public or anything that you're keeping tabs on?
So this is the first year that I haven't actually run any cameras on public. I have my public spots that I am very comfortable in the terrain and the flow. And I just haven't put any cameras out there this year. I would like to say that I'll probably take a day,
right,
and I'll slide out there to public, and I'll put some stuff out there just to kind of get some eyeballs on what's over there. But I think it's time to move my public land spot a little bit. And in all honesty, what I might do, Clint, is I might go and just do a run and gun blind set. I mean, I kind of know the area that I want to go to.
Right.
And I think that's probably what's going to happen. Like, I'm probably just going to go in blind this year and hunt the terrain instead of hunting trail cameras.
Yeah. I love it, man. Like, I don't know where you're planning to head, but like where I ended up killing that deer and had that encounter over there by that water, it's like, I would give you a vote for that direction. Cause it was just tore up. I mean, you saw it cause you helped me drag that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it was just tore up, so.
Yeah. I'm not so convinced that when you walked out to meet me at the trailhead, that bucks hadn't hit the scrapes that you just walked past.
I would not disagree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, I'm like, this is fresh. Like, this was like done in the last hour or so.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would I would definitely go check that out because I mean that the one that I missed is still there hypothetically. You know, as long as he didn't get killed during gun season or late archery. You know.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he was a hammer last year. He'll be, he should be that much better this year. So
Exactly. Yeah.
but
Yeah. I might need to get that pin from you.
yeah, I'll definitely send you those.
I was going to say, don't hold it for 4 more years.
Yeah, exactly. I ain't gonna hold it. It's like I'll definitely send it to you, man. I think for me,
I'm going to come hunt him as a 9-year-old.
yeah, exactly. And I'll miss him twice again. It'll be awesome. It'd be that much worse. Oh shit, man. So for me, man, trail camera inventory. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I have to go pull some cameras.
Yep.
There's 2 potential, shooters on this one water access piece that I have for Pennsylvania. It's one of those things like I
Yep.
hang my cameras high all the time and I kind of set them off whatever the object is. And so I don't always get a real good look at how big something is just because of the distance I'm usually from, like a scrape or whatever. And it's just this one's set up to where that just happened to be the only tree that was going to give me the angle that I needed or whatever. But there looks like
Sure.
there's two that are in there that have really good potential. There's one spot that is also water access that a bunch of scrub bucks, but like it's just littered with does. And so I actually thought the opposite. I actually thought that the spot that had all the does was going to have the buck activity early season because it's close to a food source. And then the spot that I had the bucks on camera, I actually thought it wouldn't even come into close to being in play until like pre-rut because it's just like a primary scrape area up against bedding cover. But it's actually the opposite, which I was kind of surprised by. And then the trail camera inventory from the one out of state piece is it's just bonkers. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like I've never seen or had the opportunity to hunt deer like that before, like that caliber. So I'm really pumped about that. I mean, we're talking, some that are, anything from like 150 and up is what we're seeing on the cameras out there, which is pretty slamming. But that's really it. I'll know a little bit more about the inventory this year, but I think at this point, man, we should just kind of transition and start talking about what hunts we have going on this year. So, it's always kind of a variable throughout the year as we're planning. Some stuff gets canceled, some stuff schedules don't line up or whatever the case is. So what hunts are you doing this year?
So unfortunately, I'm not going to get to go to Canada this year. The border closure got extended to August 21st, and I was set to leave here on August 15th to head to Canada. So with looking at the way things are right now, I actually anticipate them closing the border another month, after that. So nonetheless, black bear in Ontario is not going to happen. And so my first hunt will be Montana, public land down in southeast Montana around that Broadus area. Mm-hmm. Go chase antelope with the bow. And probably that's going to be like August 27th is probably when I'll probably try to head out of here, take the day, drive there. The goal is to make it there with enough time to find a good spot to set up camp for the first night.
Right.
And then get out the next morning and,
Nice.
Start pounding. I will go straight from southeast Montana. Ideally, on my way from Montana to Kentucky, I'll make one detour at my taxidermist in Iowa. Positive thinking, right?
Right,
Positive
exactly.
Then head on down to central Kentucky, and I'm going to hunt with my buddy Tevis with Whitetail Heaven Outfitters. He's been trying to get me to come down there and hunt with him for several years. And, again, it's not a situation where he's going to give me a guide to handhold me, but he's going to say, here's a property that you can go hunt. We've got tree stands on it. This is where the tree stands are, or you can go hang your own stuff and have a ball. Yeah. So just going to kind of waive the trespass fee, so to speak.
Right.
And so I'm going to go down there and hunt with those guys. They do a really good job of managing the deer that they have. A lot of their farms are 130 farms. Some of them are 150 farms. So, I don't get to pick necessarily the farm. They're going to pick me a farm, and I'm going to try to make the best out of it, while I'm there. So I am excited about that, going back to home state and have an opportunity at, possibly being able to shoot a, velvet buck.
Right. How many days are you going to have there?
I actually told them that I would be there like 5 days. but it's open. I don't have anything immediately following that hunt.
Nice.
So I could stay 7-8 days.
So if you're on something, chasing something around, you can extend it if you need to.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Cool.
Yep. So that's cool. There's no time limit on that. And I'll come back home, and this is where things get tricky. I have a spot reserved. So September 19th to the end of the month, I kind of have that reserved to go to Idaho. And that was going to be a hunt with crispy boots on a public piece out there in southeast Idaho. Idaho sold out their tags. They had like 1,800 tags on one day, and then the next day they had 0.
Jeez.
They've never, ever, ever sold out of over-the-counter tags, ever.
Good Lord.
But I guess it's not technically over-the-counter if it's kind of a cap unit, but it's kind of over-the-counter. But anyways, the cap unit, they sold out completely. So I was like, well, crap, what am I going to do?
Right.
Well, did a little bit of research, talked to some buddies. Wyoming released their tags a little bit later than they normally do. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking maybe people bought Idaho tags just in case they don't draw Wyoming. Idaho is also a state that you can sell your tags back if you don't use them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have a cutoff. I think it's like August 1st is your cutoff. But
right.
So there should be some leftover tags between, individual hunters and outfitters can sell their tags back. So theoretically, I'm hoping to draw to be able to get one of those leftover Idaho tags. If I cannot, then I have 2 options: Utah over the counter or Colorado over the counter. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. I'm going elk hunting. Right. I know that I'm going elk hunting. I just don't know what state just yet.
Right.
After that, I'm going to boogie back to Iowa, and I'm going to try my fate at an early season bow opener, October 1st, whitetail in Iowa on a private piece. And I'll hunt pretty hard for a couple weeks in Iowa. And then I drew a Kansas tag this year.
I know, that's sick. So, that's awesome.
Yep. So I'll be heading out to Kansas to hunt with my friends over at Head Hangers. They make the European skull mount, bracket. So I'm going to go hunt with them on one of their private farms that they've given me permission to hunt on with them. And then I come back home and I'll be, right in the Iowa rut. So
right in the thick of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I still have that early season tag, then obviously I'm trying to fill it during the rut. If not, I'll watch the rut from afar, and probably go out and just film and photo
Dude, how
some
sick
deer
would that
running
be?
around.
How sick would that be if you tag out early, right, and you get back to Iowa and you can actually just go out for the rut and just like watch the wildness?
I know that'd be super awesome, but Murphy's Law, what'll happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever I shoot early season Iowa, I'll see something. I'll see some state record buck, walk past me, and I don't have a tag.
At like 12 yards.
Yeah.
It'll be like a chip shot, right?
He'll bed down in the shooting lane exactly. At 10, 12 yards for like 3 hours. I'll FaceTime you. I'll do that.
Nice.
And I'll be like, shoot me now.
Right, exactly. Throw your cell phone and maybe wrestle him. I mean, it might not be illegal to hog tie and take pictures with it,
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could just drift it, but I mean, I'll just have to let him walk.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Nice.
So
man, you got a full slate, man. You got a lot going on, dude.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hunts, man. You're gonna be one tired dude come November. That's for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a busy year. It's definitely the most ambitious season I've ever had. The only year I've ever had close to this was antelope, Kentucky whitetail, and Iowa whitetail.
Right.
And so this year I'm throwing in Kansas and elk, on top of that as well. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed with Canada. You and I have talked about, I just like Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
cool.
Fun. Yeah. It's just a cool place. And hunting black bears in Ontario is so much fun because what a great hunt to start this fall season off with. You know what I mean? Like it's super chill. It's laid back. You don't hunt mornings. You go out in the afternoons, and
Right.
so in Kentucky, velvet's kind of the same, but yeah, I mean, so instead, my first hunt of the fall, right out of the gate, is going to be running around like a madman chasing antelope,
Right.
just
Yeah.
basically scaring antelope until I find one that wants to let me shoot it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I think I'm not going to be traveling nearly as much. I'm going to be hitting 3 states this year. Pennsylvania, of course, that's where everything will kind of start.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just be around here. I don't think I'm going to make it back home to hunt any of like the private or my dad's piece or anything like that. I don't even have cameras on that right now. He's building a cabin. There's a lot of people there, a lot of commotion. I'm just nervous about having a bunch of cameras out there and maybe them getting lifted. I don't know the folks, and he and I aren't around often enough to check on anything and stuff like that. So, and that with as much commotion as we're creating around there, it's like I don't know what the deer movement would be worth anyway. You know what I mean? So it's just I figured rather than risk getting some stuff stolen and being mad about it, I'm just going to let it be and probably not hunt it this year.
Yeah.
And so it'll be all public around here, and then first week of November, I'll be headed to Missouri and be hunting public out there. And that one, I was hoping to get out and be able to go do a scout here at the end of August. And Chad and I may still end up going out there because we're planning to hunt Kansas next year. So our plan was to go out, scout Kansas, hang some cameras for next year right now, and then on our way back hit Missouri so I can do a quick scout of that for my hunt in November, and then boogie back home. We were basically just going to do a red eye, like just go 4 or 5
Sure.
days and just not sleep much, But
Yeah.
and it's just I don't think it's in the cards. I think we both have a bunch of stuff going on. Our schedules just aren't lining up. There's like a small window where we could possibly go do it, so it probably won't happen. So that whole hunt is just going to be a complete freelance hunt where I'm going to basically show up to a piece of public that I've never been to before and have 7 days to try to figure it out. You know what I mean? So, and that's the game plan.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I put the trailer together, because I'm going to hop public pieces if there's a lot of pressure at one, or, whatever the case is. I'm not stuck on just one piece. I can move from piece to piece if I need to. And then I'll be hunting with Sylvester in an undisclosed location, which will be a cool hunt. That'll be the second week in November, and really looking forward to that. That one's going to be a harder hunt. It's going to be challenging, but the caliber of deer that are there are going to be well worth it if one of us can run into one. So
For sure.
So that's kind of the plan. That's kind of the plan there, man. I want to ask you, I'll start and I'll tee this one up and then we'll move to you on this one. I wanted to see what your goals are for each state. So I'll give you what my goals are. I think for me, I'm going to try my damnedest to go 3 for 3. Like I want to kill a buck early in PA. And then I want to be able to make it to, one of the other states, maybe even a little bit early in October, and have a couple opportunities in one of the states. But my goal is to try to kill 3 this year, 1 in each state. And I think, for Pennsylvania, it's just, a mature deer. I don't have like a score in mind necessarily. It's like if I find a 3.5-year-old and it gets me excited, I'm going to shoot it. Just because, 3.5-year-old deer around here, you don't get 4.5-year-olds very often, put it that way. Right. So 3.5 is probably what you're going to get on public. We'll see what the trail cameras have to tell me once I get a chance to pull all of them, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. Missouri is, the first Pope and Young deer I see. I'll stick, especially public land, not being able to scout it, having 7 days. It's like if I find something that's 125 inches or bigger, I'm going to stick an arrow in it, because that's the goal, is to try to bring some meat back. And then from there, the undisclosed location, that one's a little tricky because of I know what's there, you know what I mean? And so I'd really like to, I don't want to say hold out, but I'd really like to maximize the opportunity, if you will. But if I saw 130, 135, 140 inch deer, it would probably be hard for me to not shoot it, just because that area hunts really, really hard. And seeing those deer, you're just not going to see a lot of deer. And that might be the only decent buck you see the whole time. Or you could have a world-class animal walk in front of you. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it is, So I think for me, I'm a little on the fence with that one. Standard would probably be just a little bit higher than maybe Missouri, but the opportunity there for it to be exponentially, greater than that is certainly there, and I'd be ecstatic if that ended up happening. But I think those are my goals, and outside of that is just is to have a baller time. I got the trailer that I built. It's like I'm going to live off the grid for a couple weeks. It's like I'm pumped about that, and hopefully no flats happen or anything like that. That's my other goal, is like no breakdowns.
Yeah.
But how about you, man? What are your goals for each state?
Oh man, I tell you, I mean, right off the bat, Montana, I don't know that I'll duplicate my first trip out there. I don't know that I'll shoot another Boone and Crockett antelope,
right,
on public land. But, I want to try to perfect my skill set on antelope. I really love that style of that spot and stalk. And it's like, they're very short spot and stalks. I mean, yeah, they can take a long time, but ideally, your vehicle is like the most important thing on that hunt, in my opinion. So just making sure that I go on high percentage stalks and just take my time and enjoy myself out there. And hopefully I'll get myself in a position where I can get an arrow off on a good goat. Kentucky, I've never killed a velvet buck.
Right.
When I was a resident there, the season opened the second Saturday of the month. And so you might get a day, you might have 2 days tops, to get on one. And then the first year that I moved to Iowa is when Kentucky went to the first Saturday of the month. I'm like, really? Bunch of jerks.
Right.
And the problem with Kentucky has always been, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I was at full draw waiting for a buck to step out. Unbeknownst to me, I had a doe to the right of me that caught my scent, and she blew. And the buck that I was getting ready to release the arrow on never stepped out from behind that tree, and he went back into the cover of timber, and that was it. Hunt was over. Another year.
You had a coyote the one year, right? That blew up the spot. Wasn't that one year?
Yep. That wasn't, that was late season. That was after ATA.
Okay. Yeah. That's right.
So it wasn't velvet, but yeah, again, I watched a buck feed towards me across a field. Billy was actually filming with me that day, and we watched a buck come across the field, 400 yards, 300 yards, 200 yards, 100 yards, 70 yards, 50 yards. And I'm like, he's literally going to walk right up to the blind. You know what I mean? Right. We're going to shoot this thing at 10 yards. And I'm already reaching for my bow, and the whole entire field clears out. And I look over to my right, and there's a coyote busting out of a draw, cleared the whole field. I'm like, really?
That was what I mean? That was a good gear too.
Yeah. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So then another year in Kentucky, I had a velvet buck dead to rights, and I took too long on the shot. It was my fault. Let the buck, he got a little too weary, and when he went to preload to load out of there, and I, for whatever reason, instinct, I just thought for sure my arrow was going to be faster than he was. Right. And it wasn't. I hit him in no man's land, and I wasn't able to recover that deer. And like I said, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. So right. I'm going to try to not psych myself out before I even get there. But that's the goal for this year, is to, get a velvet buck down.
Yeah.
I'm not holding out for a 180.
Right.
First solid, respectable deer, mature deer that I get a crack at, I'm going to let an arrow fly.
Elk. I'm interested to see what you say here, just because you're still even up in the air where you're going to be.
I know. Yeah. Don't even know where I'm going to be yet. I always said that, I've never been on an elk hunt before, and which actually shocks some people when I tell them that. I guess they just assume that maybe I'd been elk hunting before, but I'm like, well, heavens, I hope I don't come off like I know anything about elk hunting, because right. I don't. I don't know shit about it. I've never been a poser. I've never acted like I do.
Right.
But I see guys like yourself, and I've got my other buddy Ryan, and lots of friends that I personally talk to about their elk adventures, and and these guys are running around, and I'm like, "Are you getting close?" And they're like, "Oh, kind of." And I'm like, "Man, you're like, you've been out there 3, 4 times and you've never even, you know what I mean?" I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's tough. There's no doubt about it. But so I said, all right, here's the deal. The first year I go, I want to go with somebody who I can really learn from. I
Yeah.
don't care if I shoot one or not.
Yep.
I just want to go. And I mean, I want to have a tag and I want to have a bow
Right.
just in case. The same as I wouldn't want to go into a swarm of protesters without a pistol. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go and be able to participate in the fun if need be, but at the same time, I want to go with somebody who's very versed and schooled in elk hunting, that I can learn as much as I can from that first year. That's going to be the sole goal. So, a very good elk hunter and very successful. So that's kind of how that came about. Um, if I go to Idaho, he's there. If I go to Utah, he's there. If I go to Colorado, I'll be with my buddy Cass, and Cass has been guiding elk hunts out there the last couple of years.
Nice.
And Cass has killed several elk himself. Right. So I'm like, I'm covered. I'm good. Yeah. I was like, even my camera guy on this hunt is going to know more about the hunt than I do. Right. Which, hey, I'm totally cool with. That's what I want to do. I want to learn. So, the goal, like I said, so my goal for elk hunting is to learn as much as I can this year. Which I mean, I think that's for both of us. Like, every hunt we go on, we want to learn more than we learned the year before, but I'm totally green this year. So I'm trying to do everything I can physically, mentally, and gear wise to prepare myself for that, so I can have the best experience possible. I don't want to be, I know I'm going to be flustered because there's going to be a lot of new things happening at once.
Yep.
But like, I understand the basics of spot and stalk and playing the wind and the scent and that kind of stuff. It's just going to a new sandbox and learning how that terrain plays, into that. Kansas, I've never hunted Kansas. And out of all the hunts, to me, that's almost the least pressure hunt. You know what I mean? So I'm really looking forward to that one. And Montana, both of those are kind of low pressure hunts. And then Iowa,
pressure cooker.
Constant, because I live in Iowa. So because I live in Iowa, I'm supposed to shoot a pair of 180s every single year. That's what you do if you live in Iowa.
They're around every tree.
They're stacked behind. And that was, there was a lot of things about you coming to hunt Iowa that I enjoyed. One, I got to spend time with you, but I really genuinely wanted to kind of see you struggle. One, I know you can handle it.
Right. Yeah.
And how bad would that have sucked if you came and shot a buck the first day? You really wouldn't have got the experience. But I wanted you to see, damn, they're actually not behind every tree.
Yeah. No, they're and coming out there, it's like, I recognize that because I talk to you often enough, obviously, right? And it's just the law of, it's never as good as people say, never as bad as they say either. You know what I mean? And so it's that kind of idea where it's like, yeah, there's great deer there. You know what I mean? For sure. And there's more great deer there than in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
But they still don't get old by being stupid. And so to find a really good deer, it's like, you still got to know what you're doing. You still got to do things correctly, and, you're not going to just luck your way into it. I mean, some people do, sure. You know what I mean? And there's maybe a better percentage chance of that happening in certain areas of the country, but by and large, it's like, it doesn't happen that way. You know what I mean? It's like, you still got to be able to put the work in. You still got to be able to like know what you're doing and hunt properly and hunt the wind and scout and understand what you're looking at and stuff like that. And so, it's like, I get it, man. It's like, there's, it's jealousy, right? People want to have those things and they get mad if they don't. And so therefore it's easier for somebody else when they're someplace else. And it's just not the case. Right. So, and I struggled. So, it's a couple swings and a miss and that was that, but, sweet, man. So if you could plan your dream scenario for the year, what would it be?
if I could plan my dream, what?
Your dream scenario for the season.
Hmm.
Like if you could paint your own picture, even build your own buck. You could build your own buck. You could paint your own hunt. Whatever it is, like if you could have all your dreams come true on a hunt, like what would it be?
Even though Kentucky is my unicorn, um, I want to be successful in elk season.
Yeah, I hear that.
So,
I can't wait to get the text from you whenever you have one at like 40 yards,
and it bugles
and it's screaming at you and it's just roaring through your chest. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, it feels like a freight train. You're just like, oh my God, I felt that. It's like whenever you're at a rock show and like it's the loudest band you've ever heard. And whenever they hit that open note or that open chord and it makes your balls shake a little bit, you know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah. It's like, this is going to be a good night. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
That's what I'm waiting for. Cause that's the experience that I had. Like the elk that we ended up killing, my buddy ended up shooting, but we were both at full draw. And I've told this story before, but like he bugled at us at like 25 yards, just like staring at us and just like ripped a bugle like, roar! And they're just like, when you're that close to them and you hear that, you're like, that thing is a dinosaur. Like that's what it looks like with the crazy antlers and shit, and the way they're, they call and the vocalizations that they make. It sounds prehistoric and they look prehistoric. You know what I mean? It's just, so what would that dream setup be? I didn't mean to cut you off.
The pre-roll, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll take it however it happens, but if I was to paint a picture of the perfect hunt and if I go with elk, then it is going to be hear the bugles, respond to the bugles, cut the distance, cow call, maybe cow call or not, but that bull starts to transition into the area that I'm into. Mm-hmm. And I want to see that presentation. I want to see that rack crest, you know what I mean? Crest the hill or crest behind trees. And like I said, you get the big reveal, the big presentation of that. I'll do anything if it's slightly chilly and there's some steam coming from his nostrils.
Oh yeah.
That's the good. And then to have him step out and turn broadside, and then to watch a lighted knock, find its mark. I mean that would be the ultimate, because when I think of how magical all of that is and how just sheer awesomeness, raw badass a bull elk is, that's the thing that comes to mind, is steam from the nostrils and seeing that humongous set of antlers. That's what I picture. So I'm like, that's how I want my hunt to go too.
100%, man. I think for me, I have two kind of dream scenarios. One is from the ground over that scrape, ghillie jacket, nestled in like the high grass. There's a deer we had in velvet in that general area. That was last year. We had him on camera during the rut and during late season on this particular piece. And he was, as an 8-point, really tall 8-point, he was probably pushing like 150 ish. And we have pictures of him in velvet this year, and he's just a freak. Like his mass and like how long he is already. I think we had pictures in June, and he was already looking like he was going to be a freak. And that one on the ground, or there's one that was probably just over Boone last year in this other little pinch, and there's like just a sweet little saddle setup where he'd be cresting this area. Like we did some manipulation of like down brush to kind of like the trail that they all were coming in on to hit this scrape. There was two different ways they could go, and to get them to get broadside in front of this one opportunity, just kind of put some deadfall in the way, so they would have to make that loop around to get to the scrape ultimately, and then cross over into this other bench. And the dream scenario would be that particular deer with more inches on him this year, roll up over that, take that little route, and be standing broadside at like, I think it was 18 yards at the scrape, hitting a licking branch and zip an arrow through him. Those are the two. That's like my dream setups. So, but man, I know you want to get out and do some glassing, brother. I don't want to keep you. I want you to go find some velvet deer. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. But before we do that, people should be checking out the Arrow Wild YouTube channel. You got some new videos up, I know. They should be checking out Bourbon Barrel Calls. You got some new good out. I know you got a grunt call, right? That we can talk, we can mention. I don't know if we can mention the other one, but
yeah, we can, because
okay.
by the time this airs, it'll be live.
Okay.
Yep. So we've got bourbon barrel calls. We have a new. We're dabbling in the waterfowl. So there's a new single reed duck call, and there's also a goose call that are going to be launching here. Like I said, by the time this airs, they'll be live. So yeah, be sure to check those out. We can still do the same customized stuff with the laser engraving, and there's some different colors and stuff that we're going to do this year. A little bit of do some collegiate themed calls as well. Yeah. Nice. So pretty cool stuff. Going to start off with Kentucky Wildcats and Iowa Hawkeyes, to start off with, and then I think the next one, number 3, we're going to do a Husker, nice. Call.
Yeah.
But again, when will this air? Before the end of the month? Yeah,
this will go out. What's the 23rd? Let me look at the calendar really quick. I can tell you. It will go out. Actually, no, it'll be like August 6th. This one will go out, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then if you did vote for me in the Carbon TV Carbon Awards, then thank you.
Yes.
And if you didn't and I lose, then I'm very mad at you.
We're no longer friends. Nice, brother. Well, I'll let you get going, man. Yep. Make sure to follow Johnny Utah Creative, Johnny Utah on Instagram, Arrow Wild on Instagram. Just give him a bunch of love. He's my brother from another mother. Johnny, by God, bucked up, full rut, Utah. We're out. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. If you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there as well. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Tethered, Exodus Outdoor Gear, Skull Brew Coffee Company, and Maven Optics. And until next time, we'll see y'all.